back to Excel Basics Plus. In today's session, we're looking at the top 5 sum formulas. We're going to look at sum, SUMIF, SUMIFS, the sum product, and subtotal functions. We're also going to be looking at them in 2 different ways. We're going to be using the formulas using a table, and we're also going to be looking at it in a range of data which is not in a table. So let's dive straight in. Simple formulas. Equals sum, open bracket. Now, in this case, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be using this data, which is a whole pile of people, their gender, what they do for a job. They've got an ID number as well, but they owe us some money, and this is the outstanding amount. So what we want to do is we want to sum the total of the outstanding amount. So standard formula for sum equals sum, open bracket. And what we want to do is we want to grab this entire column of data, which is as easy as hovering your mouse above that header called outstanding and clicking the left mouse button. It will then select the outstanding data in this table. We close the bracket and we press enter. And it's $22,065. Now, we can actually check that. We can actually go all the way to the bottom of this data set, and I'm actually going to go into our table design on the ribbon, and I'm going to click total row. And instantly, you can see, because we're using a table, we can instantly calculate what is the total sum, and it's $22,065. Come up the top, $22,065. So that sum works. The next thing we want to have a look at is the sum if. Now the sum if is the sum if a certain criteria is met. So for this example, we're going to have the sum of outstandings if their occupation is a firefighter. So once again, super easy formula, equals sum if, open bracket. Now the first piece we want to do is have a look at the occupation, because that is the range that we want to look up. So we're going to do exactly the same, hover just above the header, our little black arrow comes up and we can click the left button on our mouse. We've now selected the occupation range. That is where we want our criteria to be found in. And comma, so our range is set, comma, now we look for our criteria. Our criteria we want is firefighter. Now there's a couple of ways you can do this. The easiest way, as we're in the formula, is to actually type in the occupation firefighter in parentheses. So parentheses, firefighter, close parentheses. What you could also do, for instance, is in cell J2, have the word firefighter or the occupation firefighter, and instead of in parentheses having the word firefighter, you could simply reference cell J2. That way, it will always reference whatever you have in here. And if you changed that, if you had it as a drop-down list, for instance, and you were able to instantly change that to police officer, then it would sort by police officer instead. So this is for a single criteria. So far, sum if, open bracket, where are we looking? We're looking in the occupation column. What are we looking up? We're looking up firefighter, comma. What do we want to sum? We want to sum the outstanding. So once again, we hover our mouse above the header and we click to get table bills outstanding. So table bills is literally just the name of the table, and outstanding is the header of that column. We close the bracket and we press enter, and we've got $2,115. Quick way to check this. We can actually use our filters here. Remember, we've got a total row on this table. If we filter by occupation, we unselect all, we click firefighter, press OK. Look at that, $2,115 for firefighters owing that amount. So let's clear that filter and come back up here. So as you can see, the sum if is the sum if one criteria is met. The third formula we're looking at is the SUMIFS. Now this is a sum if multiple criteria are met. Now in this example, I am going to use female as the gender and baker as the occupation. So I want to find out what is the value of all outstanding bills for bakers that are women. Okay, so let's have a look at the formula. Very easy. Equals SUMIFS with an S on the end, open bracket. Now in the SUMIF formula, we had the sum range as the last part of the formula. In the SUMIFS formula, we have it at the beginning, and that's because there is multiple criteria that you can use, and you could do 10, 15, 20, however many criteria ranges and criteria that you want to search, as long as the data is available in your data set. So straight away, we're looking at, we want to use the sum range of the outstanding amount. So we select the outstanding amount, comma, criteria range 1. We are looking for the gender. So we select the range of cells, which is gender, comma, and we want the criteria to be female. So in parentheses, female, parentheses, comma. Now we come into the second criteria range, and we're looking at occupations. Remember, we're looking for a baker. So we click on our range of cells for the occupation, which is the table bills occupation, comma, and we put in our parentheses and type in baker, and we close the formula. Close those with that close bracket. We press enter, and we've got $1,551. Now let's check that it's done it right. We'll select female only, and the occupation we will select as baker. $1,551. It's correct again. Let's clear those filters. Quick way to unfilter multiple selections. In your data ribbon, there's a button under sort and filter tab, clear, and it clears all the filters in the table that you're currently in. Okay, so we know SUMIFS works. So the next piece is looking at SUMPRODUCT. Now SUMPRODUCT is just another way of, I guess, doing the SUMIF or the SUMIFS formula. So I'm going to replicate the SUMIFS formula using SUMPRODUCT. SUMPRODUCT, in essence, multiplies all of the cells together. In this particular case, we're actually telling it to use data to find the outstanding amounts. So this is another simple one. Equals SUMPRODUCT, open bracket. Now we're going to put in our first array. I'm going to put another open bracket there because I want the outstanding amount to be the SUMPRODUCT amount. So we're going to encapsulate the criteria that we want to find within its own brackets. So that's why we've got that extra bracket. So the criteria set, firstly, is we want the gender. So we choose that column, and we want it to equal female in parentheses. Now, in SUMIFS and SUMIF, we use a comma. In this particular formula, we are saying, go and look in the gender column and search for only female as the result. Then we're going to close that part of the formula and we're going to multiply. Remember, multiply is the asterisk key. We're going to multiply that result by new open bracket, table bills occupation. And we need table bills occupation to equal baker. So we put baker in parentheses and we close that bracket as well. We now are telling it, okay, we want the sum product of the criteria where gender equals female and occupation equals baker. And the final piece is we want to multiply that by the table bills outstanding, which is the amount that they owe. And we're going to close that bracket. So just to recap, equals sum product open bracket. Now, that first open bracket relates to table bills outstanding at the back end. You can see there is a closed bracket here that relates to that first open bracket. The second open bracket relates to table bills gender equals female. This new open bracket only relates to table bills occupation equals baker. You can see we've closed that bracket as well. So all it's telling it to do is equal sum product. Go look in the gender, look for only the result being female, then go into the occupation and only look for the result where it's baker, and multiply that by table bills outstanding. Now, the way this is doing the process is it's going through the gender column and looking for at a row level, is there a result that says female? The answer is 1. Yes, there is, because 1 equals true, 0 equals false. So it's doing 1 times occupation equals baker. Is there a baker in here? Yes, that's 1. So 1 times 1 is 1, multiplied by the total amount outstanding of each of these results, which is, we press enter, $1,551. Exactly the same as what we worked out if we did SUMIFS, gender equals female and occupation is baker. So SUMPRODUCT works exactly the same way. It's a little more long-winded, and there are other methods within the SUMPRODUCT family that you can use. I will touch on those in another video because SUMPRODUCT has some nuances which need to be taught properly. So the last one we're looking at is subtotal. Now, subtotal is good if you have multiple rows or even columns of data, and you might have a subtotal halfway down the page or after 10 rows, something along those lines. Okay, so what we want to do is a subtotal will only add up the cells that you tell it to add up at a point in time. So as we look at it, if we said equals subtotal, now we need to use a function number. The function number in this case is 9 because we want to use the sum. We want to add the values together. I'll put that list up as well. However, as you can see, as you go into the formula, it gives you what the functions are. So 1 is average, 2 is count, 3 is count A, etc., etc. So 9 means I need you to subtotal by adding the values together, comma. I now need to work out what is the data set that we're going to use. Let's use the outstanding column and just press close bracket and enter. All right, 22065. Now we know that's correct because it's 22065 up here. What if we then had to filter our data to say that we didn't want people with names that started with J, as an example. So custom auto filters does not begin with J. Okay. We've just removed all the J names, and you can actually see, because this was in alphabetical order, it goes from F, G, it misses J, goes straight to K. So looks like row 26 and 27 have now been filtered. Whilst that was filtered, the subtotal changed. The sum, however, has remained exactly the same because it is the sum is looking at every cell in this column, F2 down to F51, being all of the data within that table. So the sum will not subtotal. The subtotal function will look at visible cells only. Once again, if we filter, we use our custom filter again, and we say does not begin with J and does not begin with K. There we go. We're just about to remove some more, 20,159 now. We scroll all the way down, we can see that the this value here, 20,159, is correct. It is also a subtotal, and that is how a table totals its data. There's an automatic subtotal there. What we can see here is that G through to L, it skipped 5 rows in there, 4 rows. So this is why you need to ensure that you are using the right formula to get the right data. Sum will give you everything in the range, and subtotal will give you the visible cells. So let's clear that. Clear filter from first name. And as you can see, these are the functions that you can use as part of that subtotal. Let's just update this formula again. We said it was the outstanding. Press enter, 22065. So you could use the average of the data, the count by number, the maximum or the minimum, so on and so on, the variance. But of course, we are just using the sum in this case. Now, I just wanted to quickly run through the fact that we're using tables here. However, you may not have your data in a table. Now, tables are great if you are going to be adding data. As an example, if we come down here and we want to add another row, we come to row 52 and we add in Max Walker. He's male. He's actually a hairdresser. His ID number is 51, and he actually owes us $110. Well, remember the total amount was 22,065. Let's go all the way up the top, 22,175. So it has automatically updated the sum because the sum range is a table. Okay. Now, I've redone all the data as a range of cells. Very quickly, we go through sum equals sum, open bracket. What are we looking for? We're looking for the outstanding amount. Now remember last time we clicked down. Now you can see a black arrow there when we hit the column letter, and that would then select F to F as the entire row. Now if you did that and you were adding data after line 51, then yes, the sum would update. However, the other way of doing this is actually selecting it as a range. A couple of ways to do this. Select cell F2, Control and Shift at the same time, and your down arrow once. It will then take you all the way down to the last value of data. As soon as there is a space or nothing in the cell, it will stop looking. And you can press enter. That's now given us our 22,065. It has the data set at F2 to F51. If you add rows of data, it will not add this into the sum function. You need to be aware of that. That's the first piece. The SUMIF equals SUMIF, and we chose firefighter was the example. Now, once again, 2 ways we can do this. We look at the range. We want to have a look at the occupation. I'm going to choose the entire column, so D to D, and comma. What's the criteria? The word firefighter. If we spell it correctly, firefighter. And what sum range do we want? Well, let's choose the entirety of column F. That way we're not going to miss anything. And we're going to close that bracket. And there's our $2,115. We go back and have a look at our table version, $2,115, same value. So as you can see, all we're having to do is make sure that we're choosing the right data. The SUMIFS function, remember we chose female and baker. Once again, we can choose the exact data. So in this case, I've chosen F2 to F51 for the outstanding, C2 to C51 for the gender, and D2 to D51 for the occupation. So you can see that there. Now, The dollar signs before the column and row value are literally just locking that range. So if we did drag that formula down or across, it would keep those range values exactly the same. So the sum product, exactly the same. We're just choosing the range instead of the table names. So in this one, you can instantly see it's the sum product of finding the gender that equals female multiplied by the occupation that equals baker multiplied by the outstanding value, which is the sum there. And we press enter, and once again, it's exactly the same as the SUMIFS value. And the last piece is the subtotal one, which once again is very easy to do, equals subtotal, and we can choose the entirety of, we choose 9 to tell it to sum the values, and then we can choose the entirety of column F, close bracket, and it comes up as 22065. All right, I hope this has been useful to you. Please keep practicing. Make sure you know all of these inside and out, because this stuff can create some real efficiencies for you in your day-to-day. Like and subscribe to the video, and please turn the notifications on so you see when new videos drop. Thank you.